On today's episode, I'll be diving deep with Anthony Noud, one of my favorite humans on the planet, who also happens to be the director at Awakened Lifestyles, which interestingly was formerly Pure and Lean Nutrition and Mindset Coaching, which back in the day, many moons ago, I co-founded with him. Today, though, Anthony is a nutrition and mindset coach, a mentor and wellness ambassador, helping to awaken others to live their ideal life and realize their true potential. He's a lover of learning, meditation, yin yoga, and weight training. Mainly, though, he's just a guy following his heart. In today's episode, we will explore how to move from addiction to being awakened. And I salute Anthony as he shares his very real and very vulnerable story. We're going to get truly focused on change strategies that work in this episode so that you have some tangible tactics to take away and apply. You guys are going to love this episode. I can't wait to get into it. So why don't we just kick it off? Are you ready? Let's do it. So firstly, Anthony, welcome.
Thank you very much. Now, it's great to be here.
It's kind of weird actually for me to call you Anthony because I normally call you Big Zug,
Yeah.
La,
Yep.
or Ant.
Correct.
And the reason that I do that is because I've known you since you were born.
Correct.
We are cousins.
Yes, we are.
Some people
First
may
cousins.
not know that. Yep. And beyond that, we've had a multitude of different relationships.
Yeah.
In the employment space, we've been business partners, we've been co-launchers of brands.
Yep.
And you are actually literally, and I say this to so many people, one of my favorite humans on the planet.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'll tell you the reason why straight off the top, and it kind of sets the frame for what we're going to talk about today.
Mm-hmm.
The reason is that apart from the fact that you're just as committed, I would say, to me,
Mm-hmm.
to growth, and to doing the work, like
Probably stubbornly so, but yeah.
But we're like equal, I would say, in our obsession, and it is an obsession for us, but a healthy obsession. It's probably a healthy addiction, really.
Yeah.
It's also that for me, you actually are the living representation and the proof that I often refer to and remind myself of, because I'm in the change work, and I know you are too, of positive change facilitation.
Yep.
You are in a living embodiment of that proves to me that complete 180 is possible.
Wow.
And so for being that to me, I just want to thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's really nice.
But I often, I've had people say to me when I say, I'm in positive change facilitation, whether that's, health, mindset, whatever, career.
Mm-hmm.
And they go, oh, but do you really think change is possible? And sometimes I'm like, oh, I know people struggle with it.
Yeah.
But then I think of all the clients and then I think of you.
Yeah.
And you are the reminder to me, so stay tuned because Ant's going to talk about how the heck do you 180 who you be in the world and how you show up in the world.
Yep.
So that's what we're going to get into.
Mm-hmm.
But before we do, I have a quick question. What animal best represents your nature or spirit if you are not a human?
Oh, man, on the spot. What animal? I was thinking something stubborn or something.
Like a bull?
Like a bull, like a hippo or rhino comes to mind. But actually, my favorite animal, I guess, sentiment around animals would be, I don't know if you've heard of like the Japanese koi fish or carp.
Yes.
And in like the Japanese mythology, the idea is that the koi fish starts at like the bottom of the pond and he has to like swim upstream against the tide to try to, reach his goals or become a better koi fish or a man, I guess. That's the way I interpret it. And then when he gets to the bottom of a waterfall, if he can make it to the top of the waterfall, he actually turns into a dragon.
I did not know that in Japanese mythology.
Yep.
That's brilliant. And you are a koi fish to me. So
I'm a dragon now.
Oh, sorry, you're a dragon.
Yeah.
You believed.
I haven't got the tattoos, right? I haven't got the tattoos.
Awesome. Yeah, you're a dragon. Okay, love that. Okay, and then if you could have any superpower, which would you pick and why?
Oh, there's so many. I'd really like to be able to fly. I think that'd be really cool.
Well, you're a dragon. So
yeah, exactly. Flying or maybe instantaneous healing. However, I kind of know that people can heal themselves anyway.
Yep.
So maybe flying. Let's go flying.
Flying, that's cool. And it's funny you say that about healing because I've always said I'd love the superpower being able to have people feel how amazing they could feel. Optimize mindset, optimize vitality.
Like live their best life.
Yeah, just give them that feel, but then take it away.
Wow.
Because then I think they would know that it's worth chasing.
Yep.
Because so many people have never had that as a baseline, so they don't know.
If they can actually feel it. Yeah, wow. Awesome.
Okay, thank you for answering those two totally
No
random
worries.
questions. So let's go straight into it. Tell us and what you do and who you be in the world today, and how you came to be doing that and being this way.
Okay.
To start wherever you want to
where
start.
I'm at. So today, I direct a company called Awakened Lifestyles. We help people basically love themselves and live their best life. We do what we call inner work, which is teach people how to live in line with their values, disconnect from perhaps that mind that's constantly telling them who they should be or where they should be, and connecting with their heart or their purpose or their values or whatever you want to call it, to being their best in the world. That's kind of come off the back of my own personal journey.
Tell us about that.
Well, I think the best way to tell you about that would be to maybe go back to the start.
It's always a good place to start.
And I'll try to keep it, cut the GST and keep the important parts only. But basically it started, like if I go right back, it started as a child, growing up in a family that was, seemed really quite healthy. Parents that loved me, parents that really cared for me, middle-class family. But for some reason, always feeling like I didn't quite fit in or wasn't quite good enough would kind of be the way that I felt in my life and in my skin. Now looking upon reflection, there are actually really good reasons as to why that occurred, but I don't really think they matter. But anyway, I was left with this sense of what we would call a fear of worthlessness, as you'd call it also.
Yes.
And basically my theme song was "As I Am, I'm Not Good Enough," right? And I remember as a child having this experience, like with schooling and growing up and stuff like that, this experience that, well, if you're not going to love me as I am and you're going to tell me I need to be someone else or act a certain way or be smarter or study more or be a better behaved kid, then my kind of answer to that was, well, screw you guys, I'll show you kind of how bad I can be. And
so just to jump in there, I'd like to point out, no one was actually verbally saying to you, you're not good enough, you need to.
I definitely had some instances with, like, around family and that would, tell me that maybe I should be acting more like other people, or studying harder or being smarter or being better behaved child or whatever it was.
Okay, gotcha.
But they weren't directly saying you're not good enough as a human, but what I interpreted.
You were filtering it, especially that way.
Yeah. And so what I interpreted was that, okay, I'm not enough as I am, and then, as I get that idea, I start to look for evidence of that idea, and I started to find lots of evidence of that.
As we do, we're so good at finding evidence.
Correct, until it became a belief, right? Yeah. And so I believed it. And so, like I said, I decided that I'll show you how bad I can be. And so I started kind of playing up as a kid,
Yes, you did.
Getting into trouble, just started at school, which then escalated, and basically got involved in drugs at a young age, which started me using heroin at about 15 years of age and speed. By the time I left school, I'd, formed a proper heroin habit, and basically started my life as a career drug user, at 17 years old. All my other mates started going to university and school or getting apprenticeships or whatever.
Yeah.
And I just said, okay, let's try and do this as well as we can, because I still had that in me. I've always had this drive that anything I do, I'm going to do 100%, it's all or nothing. Yeah. The only thing was that I just committed to being a junkie.
Yeah. Doing it hard out.
Yeah.
Okay, so take us into that space, because as your cousin, there's an element of, I remember you super cute toddler. Yeah. I think you used to try to bite me, and then like legit. But you were so cute, everyone just let you. And then I also remember like babysitting you and forcing you guys to do swimming laps, and like I've always been.
Yeah, you would have. I actually remember. I remember taking me running, and I was like, "Why am I going running? I don't want to go running. It sucks."
Don't let Marina look after us anymore. But it was all of this, and then there was this turn where suddenly I was like, "Who is he now?"
Wow.
And so and I remember the pain in the family and all the other people affected. But I want to know from your perspective. Because it wasn't just like a month or 2 months. Like, first of all, tell us the extent of that detour, and then the cycles within it. Okay,
so like the nitty gritty would be from about 13 years old started. I don't know, like I said, I was feeling not good enough. I started smoking pot, and I smoked pot, and to me, the way it felt was just like, where has this been my whole life? Like, actually, why didn't anybody tell me about this earlier? I remember
because you felt what? What did it give you?
I felt safe to be myself.
So it relaxed you into a sense of self-comfort,
I
self-knowing.
guess, yeah, or just escape from my head as well. And so I remember sitting in class, really, I don't like, there's about 15 years of my life that I could fit into about 15 minutes. So I'm not good with timelines, but I remember being in maybe grade 8 or 9 and sitting with a girl in my class and telling her, oh yeah, I'm stoned right now. It's so awesome. And she was looking at me like, you're a freak. What are you doing that for? We're like grade 8 little kids. And I was like, no, you don't understand. You're the one that's got it wrong. Like I found the answer to life, right? And so then that progressed.
Which at 13 was what?
Smoking pot every day.
Got it.
Yeah. And then that progressed, and I guess the cycles toward full-blown addiction were another kind of point or fork in the road for me was I ran out of weed, right? And I had to go to school the next day, and I couldn't get to sleep. And it was the first time I'd ever considered that there might be negative consequence for taking drugs every day. And I didn't sleep the whole night. And it was like 6 a.m. the next morning, the birds were chirping. I was like, I've got to go to school and I haven't slept. And I was like, okay, I've got a solution to this. And my solution is that I'm never, ever going to run out of drugs ever again. So then I can sleep.
It's so funny, the rules and the stories we make in those experiences. But that makes
intellectually
sense.
You'd go, maybe I should stop, but
no,
but my head was like, we'll just make sure we never ever run out. And so with that
deepened you
correct
into it.
like to begin supporting a daily drug habit, I was getting maybe pocket money from mum for like washing cars or something. Like I had to start doing stuff to support that habit, and then
what did that stuff look like to support the habit?
Stealing, like started off with just petty stuff like stealing, selling drugs from a young age. I actually started, like I was selling drugs before I was using hard drugs. People that I was involved with or hanging around, grew up with, looked up to kind of thing were in that scene, and I just really naturally gravitated toward that scene. Like I don't know what it was. I always kind of go for the underdog, and I know mum always goes for the underdog too. So maybe I learned it off mum, but I don't know, something about it. Like I'd watch movies and I always want bad guys to win,
it's funny you say that, because I remember again when I was babysitting you and we were little, and I was like, we were playing make believe or something, and like you guys were into graffitiing back then. Which and they weren't graffitiing with me, because that would never happen under my watch. But it was like make believe, like they were pretending to tag, like he was a little boy, right? And I remember being like, how is this? What is this game? This is so stupid. But then I remember that you guys were like, oh, the cops are coming and we're going to run away. And I was like, you should be the freaking cops. How have you, like, we were just so opposites, because like I was, different families, different, fears that we were both running into and from. So, I mean, no right or wrong there, but I remember that. I remember distinctly going,
what's wrong with this kid?
Got this wrong. You're supposed to be the good guy and you're being the bad guy.
I was always drawn to that. I don't know how that started, but I was always drawn to that. So, so I fell in with those people doing those things, and then exposed to, I suppose, more drug use and heavier drug use, and I suppose more intense crime. And I remember sitting there just seeing it and kind of being like, no, I'll never be like them. Like I was like the little kid playing PlayStation and smoking bongs while people are buying and selling drugs in and out of the house all day. And I'd be sitting there and I'm like, nah, they're junkies. Like we don't do that. And we're never going to do that. And then all of a sudden it was like, now I'm the guy with a needle hanging out of his arm doing it every single day. And so
at its worst, what was the addiction like? Like, what are we talking?
At its worst, oh man, there's lots of low points, but I guess it depends how you define worst. Like externally, $1,000 a day heroin habit, using ice, most days, highest legal dose of methadone. I remember being admitted to detox, and one of the doctors there, I couldn't feel my feet and I couldn't feel my hands, and all my veins had collapsed because I'd been injecting too much. And the doctor saying to me, mate, you've been here a number of times now. You've been to prison, you've been to rehab, you're only like 20 years old. People like you end up dying. And, you don't really, there's nowhere else for you to go. And I remember I remember hearing that, and part of me denied it, but part of me also go, fuck, that's true. You know, like there's not much left, you know? So externally, yeah, that was pretty bad.
And so, yeah, $1,000 a day heroin addiction, that's going to take some creative enterprise to support. And, you know, this is pre the era of Bitcoin where it can happen like that.
Correct. We didn't make that overnight, right?
So, yeah, so speak to, you know, that aspect of it too. What did that end up meaning for you?
So basically, I just sold drugs. Yeah, bought and sold drugs. I was not like, this isn't like Narcos. Like in my head, I was like, I want to be Pablo Escobar of West End in Brisbane, you know. But in real life, it wasn't like that at all.
Yeah.
You know, in real life, it's like you get as much to support your habit, and then you're just constantly trying to chase that to support your habit. And there's times where you have lots of cool stuff, and you know, things seem to be going well, but in that world, things go really bad.
Yeah.
And when they go bad quickly, and they go bad all the time. You know, it's not a friendly, pleasant, happy place to live. So yeah, And I
remember there was cycles of rehab and then relapse and rehab and relapse.
Absolutely.
So, you know, and guys, if you're listening and you have not had, like I have not had, thankfully, a heroin addiction, yet we all have, well, I shouldn't say all, many of us sharing the experience of an addiction of some nature. And so I just want you to feel into where in your own life that this is relevant, and it might be something that's in your past, or it might be something that's currently showing up in your present, where you're attempting to create a change in a different direction, and yet that change eludes you. So I want to speak to that experience because I feel it's common. This experience of, yes, I'm going to change, I'm committed. And I don't know if you were committed or if you were being committed, and that could have been the distinction, but I want to get to that.
Yeah.
What is the experience like? Or can you just speak or share more on I'm changing, there's so much hope, everybody's paid all this money, and I've effed it again. I'm changing, I've effed it again. Because so many of us know that feeling, right, guys? And if you're, you know, listening and you are, then, you know, just drop into that feeling for yourselves.
So like, as if I speak around the drugs, and it is so relevant across everything, like it's very similar across all areas of life, so I'm sure people can relate. But for me, it was kind of like, I remember there was a period where I was dating this girl, and we were like, we're going to get clean together. We were like the little junkie couple, right? But we're going to get clean together. And so it was a really good excuse at night. Okay, we're going to use all the drugs we have tonight, and then tomorrow we're going to go to detox, right? And we knew where detox was because we'd both been going in and out of there for however long. And so we know if we turn up there at 8 o'clock, we'll get a bed and it'll be sweet, and we'll pretend we don't know each other, and they'll let us both in, like bullshit, right? And so use all the drugs and wholeheartedly be meaning it.
And just on that, like, Ant, you and I work with people around mindset. We work with people around nutrition. How many of you have done that around food? Well, I'll just destroy tonight because tomorrow's Monday and I'll start. Or I'll just drink all the wine tonight and I won't touch it tomorrow. Or I'll smoke all the pot tonight because tomorrow I'm definitely not. Like, we've all done this.
This is going to be the last thing that I spend on the credit card, and then I'm going to cut it up.
Absolutely, definitely not going to. And I did that around, like, even, you know, the eating disorder I had. I was like, this is the last time ever. And then the next day.
Correct.
So next day.
Yep. And so the next day I'd wake up and I'd be like, oh, I mean, from time to time, but it would change. But the basic thing is I wake up, I'm like, oh, no, I just need to go score. Like, oh, no, I just need to get more drugs. Like, but you said last night that you were going to stop, and you really meant it, you know? And I remember like writing letters to family or to partners at the time and promising them that I was never going to do this again. And I say, like, I reckon if I'd taken like a lie detector test at that time, I was sincere. You know what I mean? I really meant it. And then the next day just being like, oh yeah, just the denial just comes on so thick, you know, and that desire to want to avoid the unpleasant feeling makes me abandon myself.
Yes.
Right. And so then I go do the thing.
And then let's, I mean, you know, I know a lot of our clients who do the same work are experiencing similar things. So, you know, we can talk about, oh, well, it's a lack of willpower. But I also want to speak to that, about this lack of willpower concept. And then also, let's also acknowledge that there is a chemical, physiological reality to an addiction like the nature you're speaking of. And also to addictions, even like sugar. Let's take it back to an everyday experience, or alcohol, or, you know, your Diet Coke, you know, or things like that. There is a physiological aspect. So can you speak to the willpower question or point? Because I know you feel strongly about this willpower.
So willpower is something I personally don't really believe in as a long-term solution. Willpower is a good way to get people started, perhaps. But from the research I've done, my understanding of it is that we don't really have that much willpower as human beings. And it's like a muscle that depletes quite quickly, right? And then as soon as our amygdala, or that part of our brain that's about 4 times bigger than the prefrontal cortex, where our willpower is stored, as soon as this smaller part, this smaller muscle weakens, we revert straight back to what we know, which is to eat the sugar or take the drugs or do the thing that we're trying not to do.
Repeat the pattern of familiarity.
Correct, exactly. And so
there's comfort and safety there, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so relying on willpower alone, you're kind of handicapping yourself. It's kind of like saying, I'm bringing a knife to a gunfight, like it's just, you just. Some
ninjas do really well with that stuff.
Some ninjas are good, I guess. Yeah, but most people get shot and die, right?
True. Statistically, not good odds.
You're fucking dead.
Yeah. All right. So we're going through the cycle of sabotage.
Yep.
When and how, and this is what I really want to know, when and how did it shift and how did it change? What do you attribute the actual change agent so that the sabotage stopped and you created a new way and cycle, which I get was then a journey, but do you know what I mean? That initial.
I get it.
Thanks.
So I can tell you the story, and it's really dramatic and it sounds really cool, but the reality of this, well, it doesn't sound cool at all. It's pretty depressing, but the reality is fucking sad, actually. But the reality is that what I did was I actually surrendered, right? What I did was surrender and realize, right, when I listen to this dumb brain of mine, and I say that lovingly, but I'll put context around that. When I listen to this mind of mine that's just constantly trying to either move toward a pleasant feeling or away from an unpleasant feeling, and that's all it's trying to do ever, right? When I surrender that and go, when I listen to you, brain, I get in trouble every single time. Like you said, I can turn up to rehab and really, really mean it, and within 5 days, my brain starts telling me, hang on a second, you weren't that bad. Like, you weren't that bad. Like, it really wasn't. You're overdosing and going to, hospital. It's not that bad. Like, whatever the story might be. And my brain's then trying to, going, well, this is a little bit unpleasant. Let's move towards something which is more pleasant, or get straight back into the denial. And so when I surrendered to the fact that when I listen to my brain, I'm always destined for trouble, is when I was willing to do what it actually took. Willing to listen to someone else who actually had better advice. There's a saying in recovery movements is that, people come to get brainwashed, and that's because our brains need washing. Yes. You know what I mean? Like,
that's so true though. Yeah. There's lots of quotes, and I actually don't know who I'm paraphrasing, but there's that one, I think it's Einstein or one of the great minds of the world, that says, the mind is a brilliant servant, yet we've been treating it like the master.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you and I are both on the same page with that. And we know that it's our minds and the crazy miswiring.
The identification with my mind. Yeah, absolutely.
That catch all of us all the time.
Exactly.
And we are not our minds, and we are not our thoughts, and we're not even our beliefs.
Yep.
So, okay. So one of my favorite words is surrender and trust. And I'm so on this page, but for our listeners, what the heck do you mean when you say, when I surrendered? Like, what does that mean in reality? What's a tangible? What did you do? What occurred for you to go, okay?
I stopped doing what I thought was the right thing. I stopped listening to my head, which was trying to, get this short-term pain relief or get this short-term payoff. And I kind of dropped into my heart, I guess, and I went, what's right for me? And I knew the answer. And I started doing that. Now, it wasn't just fixed, the cravings come back. That then started a 6-month process of withdrawal, which was horrible. But once I'd surrendered, I then, after the surrender, quickly after the surrender was then a commitment to, okay, I'm going to do things differently, and it's not going to be my way or my brain's way, if that makes sense. It's going to be my heart's way, or what I believe to be my.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then would you say, and I'm guessing that when you made that commitment to be and do differently, I'm sure there was still like slippery slides back a little, 100%. Like lost footing.
100%.
But perhaps the difference, or, I noticed the difference in the change of people, it's like still the commitment to the new course.
Correct.
Even though you're slipping, right? And that little bit of like, okay, it's all good because I'm still moving in the right direction. Like falling off the horse and getting back on to keep moving forward. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of describe it or see it, visualize it as kind of like fork in the road moments, right? And I can like I remember vividly actually part of my early recovery, and it's kind of weird. It kind of led me to where I am now. Part of my early recovery, I was detoxing off the methadone, and mum actually said to me at the time, Marina still owns health clubs, but was, you know, wholly and solely just in the health club space. Now she's coaching also. But at the time, mum was like, oh, maybe you should go help your cousin. She needs help ripping up some carpet at the gym. And I was like, why on earth would I do that? Like, that sounds fucking horrible. I'm detoxing here. Like, poor me, you know? Like, I'm sitting here smoking 50 cigarettes a day, watching television, detoxing. Like,
detoxing, smoking 50 cigarettes. That's hilarious.
That was my version of a detox. And
I just want to point out that is progress, though, just on that.
Oh, that's major progress.
So do you see that? So it's not perfection. He wasn't like green juicing
and
meditating.
No way.
He was smoking 50 cigarettes because that is progress from $1,000 a day heroin addiction.
Correct.
So just note that. So if you've come even in your food space from like something hectic to something that you still think is not good enough but is so much better, celebrate that because it's progress on the journey. Anyway, back to your story. You came and helped me, right?
Yeah. So I came to the gym or to the club, and we had to rip up some carpet, and it was yourself and Todd at the time, and it was kind of weird because like the family, it was a little bit strange, you know. I hadn't seen you guys for ages, and anytime I did, I was probably off my head, and and so it was a little bit weird, but I remember being there and wanting part of that. You know what I mean? Wanting something in me sparked. And I can't remember whether it was yourself or it was Todd that said, hey, just come and train whenever you want. Like, you know what I mean? Just come in and use the gym. And I was just like, oh, awesome. And then I started coming. I had no idea what I was doing. I remember it was
you
hilarious.
were fat too then.
Yeah, I was fat.
You've gone through fat and thin. And you know, if anyone's offended by the word fat, well, get over yourself because you were fat.
Yeah, I was fat.
Yeah, and I can say that.
I was fat. Yeah. Full man boots. And anyway, and so I started training and just wanted part of that, but I was getting to the fork in the road moment. Was like, I feel like there was a fork in the road. I remember sitting there and mum just saying, go help your cousin, you know, go help your cousin Marina. And part of me was like, everything in me actually was like, nah, don't do that, right? Like, I don't want to do that. It's hard work. And then, but something was like, maybe you should. Just maybe you should. Yeah, it was like a voice or an internal knowing or something, and I did that. And then I had another fork in the road moment. I remember coming to the club like not long afterwards, and I remember it vividly, standing at the door of the gym, and I share this with clients all the time. And everything in my being was saying, don't go in there. You don't know what you're doing. Everyone's going to think you're a loser. You're the fat guy. What the fuck? You don't belong here. Blah, like just my head was so loud, just telling me to leave. And I remember, again, that voice or that knowing or whatever I want to call it came up and said, just go in. Yeah. And I went in.
Yeah, I just got chills.
Yeah, I went in and I got my little dumbbells and I took them into the darkened ride room because I didn't want anyone to see me. Bless. And so I trained in the dark.
Now it's the opposite. Now he's trying to.
Now I'm like shirts off in the mirror, right?
Oh, the change, the progress. Yeah.
But and so that was another one of those fork in the road moments. Yeah. And I guess when you're talking about commitment, that's what I'm talking about. That's the practical, like knowing that this is the thing that's right for me, but everything inside of me is screaming, don't do it, don't do it. You're going to die.
But not everything. See, that's how I just want to make that distinction. Not everything inside you.
My mind is screaming at me.
All the loud voices are screaming, but the solid voice, the knowing voice is saying, take a step and get in the club. Now, I want to expand on that story because I actually haven't heard you say that. I haven't known that side of it. But what I remember to be true, and this is, this was a great learning in my life too, was my mum, who's your mother's sister. So our mothers are like sisters. Tight. And they're super tight. But my mum came up to me, and I remember I was in the club, and you must have been after you'd helped out a bit. And I don't know if you said something to your mum or if they'd just been talking about the shift in you being impure at the club. But mum said to me, hey, I don't know how you feel about this, but would you do maybe me a solid? And I was like, what? And she's like, well, would you give Anthony a job? Right? I'm serious. And I was like, Anthony, a job? Why would I do that?
Right? Like, I want to keep my cash register, right? Like,
no, legit.
Yeah, I know.
I was, because there'd been moments where I'd been stung, like in different situations. We won't raise all those, but I was initially like, okay. But one thing I'm always proud of myself about is I'm very open-minded to things. I never am like a yes or a no solidly. And so I said, well, why? And she basically said, and I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but you mentioned you've been into some petty like you'd gone through some stuff. And so because of the actions that you'd taken to obtain drugs, you had at that point a record, right?
Yeah.
And so she explained to me, she said, you know, because of his situation, he is not able to find work right now. And so obviously, you know, as someone
what actually happened,
Yeah,
I was trying to get a volunteer job,
Yes.
and I went to get a volunteer job because I couldn't get a real job because of my history and my criminal record.
Yes.
And I tried to get this volunteer job, and I started doing it, and then it came to, oh, let's just reference check you. And they said, sorry, you can't even volunteer with us because of your current record. And I was just like, well, what am I supposed to do? You know, like, I'm actually trying to change my life here.
So maybe it was from that point. Anyway, a mum came to me, and this is the beauty of, you know, family and people who love you,
absolutely.
right? Is, you know, she said, would you consider giving Anthony a job? And look, first reaction was, why? No. And then
rightly so, right?
And then and then when she said, you know, that you didn't have any other options, and I'm someone who always believes in chances, you know, like just chances. Like I believe that good people do bad things, and I believe that, you know, I don't really believe there's bad people, to be honest. I just believe good people do bad things when we're not showing up as pure love and light at all times.
Sure.
And so I said, and I'm pretty sure we had this conversation, well, at least we had it in my mind, that I offered you, I was like, you definitely, it's no problems, but it's a one-time deal. And if you burn me, we're done. Like that was, I drew a line in the sand. And I think based on where you were, like what I can say if I fast forward is like that was the best decision I ever made. Because first of all, and if anyone, you know, go and look at Instagram, Ant's Instagram, and you'll see his own physical transformation. And that was around the same time I was going through all my health crisis with my unhealthy gut and my hormones and all my stuff. So I was obsessed around food, but from a cellular wellness, and you were obsessed around food from a transformation, metabolic enhancement. And we were also having all these other people come to Pure and look to have program, like having us sell their stuff, and I was like so anti it because I was full cellular, but you were crushing it. So we came together. I don't know if you remember, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to like listen to him talk about all these powders and potions. It's gonna probably be like health drug related because he's druggy background, and I'm gonna be like not into it. Like and anyway, and we sat down, and I was like, here's what I found, because not only did I transform my wellness on a cellular level, I had also noticed physical changes, which had shocked me. And so we compared notes, and we were like practically like the same, which is then we created inside of Pure Health Clubs, Pure and Lean, which was a nutritional coaching company that we really all did together, which then eventually became your company, which then eventually became Awaken Lifestyles. So when I look back, it's like that, and I just want this to land. It was firstly your decision to commit to being your higher self. Firstly, look at the magic of that. And I know the thousands of people's lives that you've positively influenced, like purely by making that decision yourself, which just, you know, guys, it's not just you in your life. There are people waiting for you to show up. You know, they're waiting and they need you, and you not showing up is not just you selling yourself out, it's you selling everybody out that you're here to serve. One. Two, it's asking for freaking help. You know, which is a lesson I've had to learn long and hard in my life. And I look at that and I'm like, that asking for help. And then of course also giving people the benefit of the doubt. Like there's so many lessons in that. But the work that we went on to do inside Pure and Lean and that you've done in Awaken Lifestyles, like, best decision I ever made.
Epic.
Best decision I ever made. And no good freaking reason to do it, right?
No good reason.
So
in fact, many good reasons to not do it.
But something in me, the same way your voice said, yes, it's a yes. Even though logically it makes no yeses, it's a yes.
And if that's something that I can just acknowledge in you, because that's something I'm forever grateful for, and I think you can feel that, because I wouldn't be here for sure. Like, so thank you very much.
Well, you know, I love you so much.
I love you too.
Okay, so change. Let me just get my shit together. All right. So what would you say if you were going to sum it up? And then the journey onwards, and this is the thing, you know, then over the years, and the thing I love about you beyond all of that is, A, you love food as much as me. So you make me feel normal. And two, and you eat as much as me, maybe even more, which I can't say about many people, but the list is growing. So this is good. Also, our sense of humor is equally as whack and decidedly naughty. But, you know, and again, I said the growth before, but so we've done a lot of work over the years together, you know, started and founded other great companies, sold out of those, whatever else. But I also watched your journey around meditation.
Right.
And watched that with interest.
Wow.
You know?
Okay.
So, and I feel like that's played a big part in the reshaping of you.
Massive.
Would you agree or not agree?
Massive.
And can you speak to that?
Okay. So to put some context around it, when I first got clean, my head was just really, 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 really loud. Like I remember vividly trying to read a book, and I got about halfway through and I'd have to reread the paragraph, ended up throwing the book at the wall because I was like, I just can't even read. I've broken my brain. And so I started practicing meditation, which at first just felt kind of really cool and really nice. Like my head quietened down a little bit. I felt a bit more peaceful. I was like, this is great, right? Same way I do everything is 110% or nothing. So I go, I'm going to do it every day, like twice a day, and start meditating.
Yeah, you were hectic about it.
Yeah,
you went full obsessed. I remember you told me one
like
day.
Hours a day.
We were doing like a road trip together one time. Remember that? You're like, I'm going to teach you this meditation method. I'm like, okay, because I'm like generally up to learn anything new. And we were doing this like, boom, boom, noticing exercise on the road, like noting. I'm like, and you're like, you're really good at this. I'm like, I kind of like this. But you also were saying that you'd spent 8 hours like a week before staring at a bowl. And I was like, who is this man? What? Yeah.
So
he goes full out when
like
you're
hardcore.
into something, you're like next level.
And so I picked up the meditation thing, and I just started to notice massive shifts in my life. Like, I used to be quite an angry person. A lot of people meet me today don't realize it, but I was pretty angry. And I noticed my road rage started to go away. I was like, I haven't like threatened to kill anyone in like months. Whoa, what happened? You know, like, and whether that was in my head or real, like, you guys get it. And I was like, wow, this is really nice. I'm actually starting to notice bigger shifts than just feeling a little bit better or sleeping a little bit more. And so, like you said, I dove right into it. I got a coach that helped me in meditation. I started reading as many books as I could. I started practicing as much as I could. And so I still practice today, like, every day. It's like part of my life now. And I feel like it's one of the biggest gifts because, yes, it's quite in my mind, but more to that, and I suppose the bigger gift is that it's made me get to know myself.
Yes.
You know, and really understand who I am beyond this brain, beyond this mind, beyond this ego,
beyond this body,
also, right? Beyond this shell, and it's really, it's transformed everything. Like when I first started getting clean, I thought it was all about the outsides, right? I thought it was about, well, you're fat and you're a junkie and everyone thinks you're a loser and society tells you you're a loser. So if I change all of that, then I'm going to feel great, right? Yep. So if I look really
external.
All external. So I lost lots of weight and focused on all that and finally got the abs and did all that. And it was cool. And people treated me differently. And
the women treated you real different. I remember. I'm just going to drag you over the coals right now.
Thanks.
I remember the Tinder, like we'll call it the massacre of Tinder that occurred, and the juggle. You got good at juggling. You were kind of joined the circus for a while.
I don't know about that. I got nothing to no comment there.
But can we just speak to that in all seriousness just for a second? Because I've seen this happen with other people as well, that they go through a physical transformation. It improves their quote unquote self-worth. But really not self-worth.
Not at all.
But as a result, they start like spreading themselves around, looking for that gratification or external validation.
What we call it. So for me, that has that fear of not being good enough, right? For me, I look for what we call shots of value. So my mind looks for these shots of value. So if I look this way, or if I drive this car, or if I have this thing, or if I can make that girl like me, then I'll
sleep
finally
with me.
Correct. If I can make that girl sleep with me or like me or whatever, then I'll feel okay about myself.
And women can run this the other way. If that guy comes over at 2:00 for a booty call, that's going to obviously mean I'm attractive.
100%. And like we see that all the time in both males and females. And so I'd get this little shot of value, but again, I think I'm lucky because I have that addictive nature is that I smoke everything to the butt, right? So I just go hard out, like the meditation is just go hard out to the point where I go, wow, I just feel really empty and I just feel really disconnected. And when I do this, I'm hurting myself and I'm hurting others, and I don't want to feel this way anymore.
Yeah.
You know, like it took a lot to get there, but that was my, I guess, with everything combined, that was my awareness of it.
Like I like that analogy of smoke everything to the butt, and something just popped to mind now, and it's like, we always hear life as a journey, not a destination, but I think when you're running it as a destination of joy, so happiness will be when joy will achieve, but just hear that for a second. If you run it like a destination, you get to the end of the road and you're just at the end of the road.
Exactly.
What the fuck's at the end of the road?
I like that.
Do you know what I mean? You're at a dead end. You're at a cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
So the destination is never, we don't ever want it to be the end of the road or ever really done.
Yep.
So this idea of being whole and complete within yourself on a journey, It's kind of, it makes sense even metaphorically.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so and let's look at the things that you used to change. So you obviously was the commitment to staying the course. You asked for help. You changed your, I mean, let's just look at things. You changed your ecology. So you started hanging out with different people. You started
100%.
being inside the club. You started to get endorphins. You started to notice change. So positive reinforcement 100%. For the new behaviors. I'm just kind of flagging some things. And then you're talking about books, which is more ecology coming in.
So like instead of reading
podcasts, listening and watching to this, as opposed to like a YouTube channel about watermelons or something.
Instead of reading true crime books, which is all I read, I started reading personal development books. You know what I mean? Or exercise books or fitness books. And that just, my brain started thinking in different ways.
Feeding on different things.
Correct.
Growing,
and looking for different
because
things.
It's feeding on different things.
Correct. Yeah.
And then, and meditation. So I suppose what I'm saying is, what would you, if you were going to like attribute the change in a nutshell, like the real transition, like what would you say? What would be the things? It was definitely this and this and this. I know you said it was the commitment.
You mean principles or you mean actual things?
Actually, like, I don't know. Let's
like
say principles and then maybe your top 3 practicals. So principles, like elemental concepts, and then
principles, kindness to self was huge. So just giving myself a break, right? Because I'd have to do everything perfect, and if I didn't do it perfect, then I wouldn't have any motivation to continue. So learning to actually give myself a break was massive. Willingness, huge. Like just being willing to try different things and a different way of life, and just turn up. Like I remember one thing you probably don't even realize that you taught me in the early days was, you said, sometimes you just said it offhand one day, sometimes I don't want to train, I don't want to exercise, but I just turn up and I give myself an out. If I'm 10 minutes in on the treadmill or running or whatever it was, you're like, if I was on a treadmill at the time, if I'm 10 minutes in and I want to go home, then I'm allow myself to go home. Now I've employed that, and to this day, I don't think I've ever gone home. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's it, right? So, because energy begets energy. So all you have to do is show up in that environment, and your body is going to love it. Even if it's not your best workout ever. I've also never turned away from a workout unless I was really ill, in which case I shouldn't have showed up in the first instance. But the principle still works. Okay, so
that's showing up, or willingness, whatever you want to call it, and then kindness to self. In recent years, probably compassion has been massive.
Which goes hand in hand with kindness in a way, right?
Yeah, but kindness to self and then compassion for others.
Oh, okay.
Right? That's been just such a huge game changer for me in later years with regards to things like judgment and comparison and just understanding the world and people.
Don't you feel, though, that really is a mirror? Like I find that either people need to do the work externally around that compassion element and they've got it sorted here, or vice versa. Like when you learn to be compassionate and kind to self, by the very nature,
well, that's the only way.
And then vice versa too.
That's the only way.
Yeah.
But for me, being the way I am wired, I guess, like I said at the start, it was just all about me.
Yeah.
How can I get me really, really good so you all like me? And then after a while I went, this is kind of empty.
Back to us,
how can I help others?
Love it. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then service, I suppose, is the extension of that compassion.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Like being of service is,
absolutely.
We talk about all the time. It's the most selfish thing we can do because it feels so freaking good. It really does.
Yeah, people are like, oh, wow, you're so great. I'm like, I'm doing this for me.
You just love to help people. Yeah, because it makes me feel brilliant.
Yeah, exactly.
It really does. All right. And so then tangibles, top 3 for change, like what
definitely
would you say?
Physical health.
Yes.
Right.
I'm so glad you
definitely.
Said that. Yeah.
Like I can't actually explain, like I said before, the anger and the outlet and the stuff for me as a male, at least. I think exercise plays a huge role in that. I now also still, if I go more than a couple of days without training these days, I just don't feel right. I just don't feel myself. So exercise is a big one. Second one would definitely, probably the, equal to, if not more to, would be the inner work stuff.
Yes, definitely.
That we talk about. So
mindset.
Doing
knowing your wiring, your beliefs, your values.
Correct.
Yeah.
Connecting with your values, connecting with yourself, like actually understanding who I am.
Yes.
Beyond body and mind. That was probably the biggest game changer. And then the third one would be, it put me on the spot, but third one would probably be living in line with your values.
Yeah, or just alignment with you. Once you're aware, right? Like it's when you're aware of who you are and you align with it, I agree, then it's easy, because anything outside of that is discord. Do you agree? Like when you're...
So no longer, the way I would phrase that would be never abandoning myself.
Yes.
Or trying to never abandon myself. Don't always get it right, but 90% of the time, if I don't abandon myself in any situation, I'm on the right path.
Mm.
You know?
And then we've kind of talked about some pivotal events, you know, that have course corrected.
Yep.
But like, can you think of one moment in time that's been super important or pivotal in your life that you're just like, oh, that thing, had that not happened, it could have gone a different way, or even it can be an amazing thing that you were just like, that was like super pivotal for me. That just, I learned a lot in that moment. It changed the game.
There's so many.
What one first comes to mind? What first comes up that wants to be voiced?
There's actually one where it was actually a pretty big one, right? Where I did a bodybuilding competition, and I dieted for like 20 weeks to do this bodybuilding competition. And in my head, it was just like a war zone battle obsession where I just have to make this happen. And for anyone that doesn't know, training for that consists of about 90% diet, and then just completely wrecking yourself physically to try and put yourself beyond, you know, healthy levels of body fat for men at least. And so it's self-harm in a lot of ways, if I'm really honest.
Yeah.
The last little bit at least. And so in that, I was just like, I have to get this, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to prove my worth, I have to prove that I'm the man, I have to prove that I can do this.
Walk the talk. I've helped so many people do this.
Exactly. I help people do it. I work in this space. I have to prove it. And in doing it at the time, I was developing this, you know, continually developing this relationship with like a high power or, you know, spiritual practice, I guess.
The source and spirit and whatever.
Yeah. And kind of doing that whole, you know, put it out to the universe and let the universe take care of it kind of thing.
Surrender.
Yeah. Surrender and allowing. But in my mind, I was telling you, but you have to make sure you're doing all the stuff. Anyway, I did all the stuff. It ended up turning up on the day, ended up going really well. And in my head, it was like, when you get there and if you win, you will be the man. Yeah. Right. And I remember being there, and it was fun, and it was really exciting, and I ended up winning. So I was like,
winning. Whoop, whoop.
Yeah. So yeah, well, I ended up being, you know, I was there to reach the dream. Heavyweight Mr. Queensland, standing on stage, holding the trophy, and something inside of me just went, was that it? Like, was that it? You know, like, oh man. In my head, it built it up to be this massive, major thing. And I think for me, that was, like you spoke about before, that, okay, I get this whole journey versus destination thing now. Yeah. You know, like I understood it conceptually. Yeah. And I got it, you know, but I didn't get it until I was there. You know?
And so like because we work with so many people in this space, you know, you and I both, like constantly chasing. And I know we've also both been there.
Absolutely.
So, you know,
still can be.
Yeah, and gratitude is a big part of it, right? Like just the daily gratitude, breathing in the moments. But what's your advice to really shift out of the I'll be happy when into I'm just freaking happy now?
Yeah. So, and I mean, yeah, gratitude is huge in that. And I believe over time, like someone taught me, is to develop that attitude of gratitude. And over time, it does just become part of who you are. And you just start to see the cup half full, and you start to notice, it's not like I write the list every day anymore. Like I did that for years, but now it's just an attitude. So that's definitely a part of it. But the other thing is like, actually finding the joy in the process.
Yes.
You know, like actually finding the joy. Like, for example, I came here before with my food prep.
Yeah.
And in my head, driving over here, my head still goes, oh, why don't you just stop and get really nice sushi? We're going past your favorite sushi place.
Yeah.
And my head still says that.
Yeah.
You know, a decade down the track, I'm not magically fixed. But I go, no, I'm actually going to feel like really accomplished and really satisfied after I eat this, you know, kangaroo and potato and broccoli. Yeah. And I don't always eat like that.
Yeah, and the thing is there are times when you will just stop at the sushi
100%.
place. So it's
I still do that a number of times a week. Like that's not a thing. But I guess what I'm saying is it's enjoying the process. Yeah. It's not about when I get the abs and look good on the beach at Christmas anymore. Yeah. It's actually I ate it and I felt genuinely satisfied. And right now, like less than an hour later, I'm feeling really on my path and on my purpose. Yeah. So I'm living, I guess I'm reaping the rewards from what I'm doing in the moment. Yeah. Rather than when I lose the weight.
And it's like that delayed in that instance too, that delayed gratification of the deeper joy of feeling amazing and knowing you're in alignment in that moment instead of the instantaneous joy.
Exactly.
And then for me, my way of doing that, I suppose, just to add another frame that's not even around food, is literally just on the daily. The biggest question I ask myself is, how do I bring more play and more pleasure to the process? Do you know, just everything?
Awesome.
Because, you know, there are things that you sometimes just have to do. I mean, you and I both are very lucky. We work for ourselves. We work in in careers that we love,
Mm-hmm.
helping people that we love.
Yep.
And that already is so much more than most people get to do. We have a lot of
Well, not get to do, choose to do.
Choose to do. Thank you. Good point. And even in that space, there are things sometimes I'm like, I wish I, and then I'm like, you know what, but I am doing it because it's really needed. So how do I make it fun, and how do I make it pleasurable?
I like the
and
play.
Then I come at it from a different, then the intention and the context will adjust the content.
100%.
So just remember that you are the context for your content always.
Wow.
And if you choose to hold that frame, then that is the frame of your life. I always talk about it like a rainbow bubble, but what else?
That's really cool.
Make
That's
it up
really
yourself.
cool.
Okay. And before we go into these quick fire end questions, I wanted to just speak to, because I believe so heavily in this work and I address it in, my Dream Builder programs and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But guilt and shame.
Oh.
Super low frequencies,
wow.
right? Super low frequencies. But, back when you're a heroin addict and you're in and out of rehab, when you're telling your family, I'm going to get clean, please give me more money to get clean. And then 2 weeks later, you're back on, the drug train. I know my own experience of guilt and shame has been heavy. So I can only imagine the depths of yours. And I just want to speak to that, because I know that we all guilt and shame ourselves about little things and big things. It can be mama guilt. It can be, feeling like you're not providing enough if you're, the provider in your family. It can be whatever. Your desires to want, against your wants, your desires, your needs, your expectations, the stories you're telling yourself, the rules you think you need to live by, the whole mishmash of the stuff that we run in this crazy thing.
Yep.
Guilt and shame. Can you speak to that? And how important do you think it is to A, get clear on if you're running it, B, what to do about it?
How to get clear on if I'm running it?
Well, do you think it's important? I just want you to speak to the guilt and shame piece. Do you think it's it's not really that big a deal? How big a piece do you think it is?
So the way we kind of, I guess differentiate to begin with was guilty. If I do something really bad,
or something that you think is
sorry,
bad.
I shouldn't say that. If I do something, so say I do something that's harmed someone else somehow, accidentally, and I feel guilty about that, there should be a healthy level of guilt. If I just if I didn't go, oh, well, if I don't care about you, mate, and I just hurt you, then that's not really healthy. So I should experience guilt, and that would be what we would call healthy guilt, right?
So it's a level of conscience.
Correct. Yeah. Level of conscience and level of, so guilt can definitely be healthy, right? Shame, on the other hand, is if I do the thing that's not right, and then I make me not right, right? Yeah. So rather than I made a mistake, it's I made a mistake, so I am a mistake.
Yes.
Right.
Or I did something bad, so I am bad.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and which is not healthy. Yeah, which is not beneficial ever. And so because a lot of people I know, well, just in the clients we work with, a lot of people carry a whole lot of shame. I did something then, and I did something when I was 20, and I'm still carrying all this shame around it, and that carries into all my relationships since then, and all of my workplaces since then. And now I have this view of myself as this bad person who did this stuff because of something back then. And it's well, hang on, that thing when you were 20 happened 10 years ago.
And beyond that, it also happened for the reasons it happened for, right?
Correct.
And,
and so understanding that, but it's how is that serving you today?
Yes.
How is that actually serving you today? And at best, or actually all it's doing for you is giving you this story, that happened there, but you're writing this massive story about it for the last 10 years. Reliving it and making it mean something about who you are, when in reality it was just a thing that you did. And in that moment, it was probably the best. I personally believe we're always doing the best with what we have.
Yeah. In that moment. So 100%.
In that moment, if we were to dissect it and look at what you're feeling.
Yeah. Well, I always believe that and this is where compassion becomes a big piece too. So if someone externally to me does something that I can't relate to, I don't understand, but I hold the belief that they are a byproduct of their upbringing, their beliefs, their own fears about themselves, their limiting frames. And so that if I had all of those things that they had to the mirrored image, then I would also do and act exactly as they do, because that's the reason they are doing it.
Yeah.
If they had my frame, they wouldn't do it.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Just like they wouldn't do some of the things that we
do because they don't have the frame.
Yeah.
So the other thing about the shame piece is, and this is for those of you who are like, oh, I don't know if I have shame. The thing that you don't want to tell anyone, that's where your shame sits.
Yeah,
does that make sense? So I know for a long time, you'd gotten all right with the drug story, but you hadn't shared it publicly.
Totally.
And then I think actually at one of my events, you shared it for the first time publicly. Yeah. And I just want to, it was an elevation event. And then I just want to speak to that, because I do a lot of work around shame for people. And can you just tell, like, once you'd owned the story, does that make sense? Like, really accepted it and gone, I did it, but I am not it. Because that's it, guys. I mean, we do what we know, but we are not what we do, is what I like to say. So when you owned it and gave it voice and let it out of the box, what did that give you?
Okay, if I can go back a step, I think it's really important that we do that in a safe place initially. I wouldn't recommend anyone just goes talks to a room full of people and shares all your deepest, darkest secrets. Probably not ideal. However, it's very important that you find someone safe to share that with initially, to get some clarity, get some understanding. Agreed. Once you have that, and over time, you'll start to build a level of comfort with it. In my experience, you share it with someone, and that thing that, like Marina said, that thing that you swore you'd never share or that you want to keep secret, you share and you feel more connected. You feel, oh my God, I didn't actually die. I felt like I was going to die if anyone knew that about me, but I'm not dead. Funny
As
that.
Brene Brown says, vulnerability is the bridge to connection. I don't know how she says it, but that's my take on it.
That's your, paraphrasing. And so then I connected. And so somehow in that, and I don't know exactly how it works, but somehow in that, I accept myself a little bit more. Something shifts, something changes. And I go, oh, okay, wow, I didn't die. They don't hate me. I actually feel more connection. That's like the birthplace of what I would call self-love and self-acceptance. Now, the more that I begin sharing and the more, safely I share that, generally the more understanding I get around it. So now I start to understand, oh, of course I did that because I was feeling really crap about myself. Of course that was the way that I acted because this was the information that I had at the time, whatever the reason might be, right? And so then forgiveness comes
self-compassion, self-forgiveness.
Once the forgiveness and compassion comes in, then I think it's almost our duty to share that with others, because then we're connecting with more people.
And we're giving them permission to own the parts of the shadow parts of themselves that they're not okay with.
Yeah, too many of us try to live this perfect life, looking amazing or looking amazing on the outside, but carrying all this shame internally, and we don't realize we're building like a barbed wire fence between us and the people we care about.
And truth be told, I think that's why we're able to do the work we each do, is because we've been in the dark nights of the soul. We've been face to face with the darkest parts of ourselves.
100%.
And at times thought we couldn't survive them, and yet risen through them, grown through them. And as a result, we can hold space for other people purely because we've been there with ourselves. So thank you for speaking to that, because I just think it's a really relevant piece.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so if we had the opportunity to put an earwig, if you will, into every human's ears on the planet.
What's an earwig?
I don't know. I thought it was a microphone. Whatever.
Oh, okay. Is it like a microphone?
I'll just say a microphone. You know me. I do this all the time.
Yeah.
Probably
just
totally
make
made
up
the
my
name
own language. Yeah.
What I mean, okay, different. Let's just say that you can text a message to every human on the planet. Everyone will get it, or a subset of the planet you can choose. But it's like a sentence. Okay, so it's super short. And it's literally the message on your heart that you want every human on the planet to just know is truth.
You are not your mind.
Thank you.
Done.
Amen, brother.
Yep. Next.
You are not your mind. Okay, I just want that to land.
I can elaborate on that.
No. I just wanted to land because it's kind of what we've been speaking about today.
You are not your mind. You are not that head that shames, blames, judges, criticizes you, or compares you to other people. It's not who you are. You have a mind and it tells you shit, but it's not who you are.
Yes.
Next.
Okay. All right. Number one tip to magnify energy.
Eat well.
Yes.
Sleep, exercise. Oh.
Okay, Eat well, sleep. Take care of your vessel, right?
Yep.
Okay, 100%. Good. Number one tip to magnify empowerment, like personal experience of empowerment.
Be kind to yourself. Say yes. Listen to that voice. Yes. Number one, listen to that voice.
Yes, inner voice. Yep. Okay, number one tip to magnify, let's call it enterprise, but this is business, wealth, career. Like, what's your number one tip?
Honestly, and I say this a lot, and I share this a lot with people in the fitness industry. We get a lot of people coming to us these days, and I actually learned it from you, was learning how to sell. Yeah. Learning how to sell. Like, honestly.
No, actually, I'm glad you said that, because this is one of those things. It's like certain words that have stigma.
That's what I was about to say.
It's got such stigma, and I don't understand, because selling is being of service.
Correct.
Selling is facilitating change. Yeah.
Like,
it's assisting people to step into a new potential.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm totally down with that.
Yep. That's it.
Love that. Thank you.
No
okay.
worries.
Number one.
You're
welcome. Number one tip to magnify expression. So this can be your experience of yourself, your expansion in life, your embodiment, like just expression.
Say the things. And what I mean by that is, like, I know for me, I'd used to turn up to like a gathering, for example, or a social setting, and I'd be constantly worried about what other people are going to think about me, you know? And
Yep, keep going.
Yep. And in that, constantly worried about what other people think about me. And then in that, I'd just be stuck in my head the entire time and holding myself back and not being true to myself and not sharing what I wanted, and sometimes even abandoning myself by agreeing with stuff I didn't even agree with, right? So beginning to, what we would say, call honor myself and actually say the thing, like, you know what, I do believe in this, or I don't believe in that, or this is my truth, or whatever whatever you want to call it, is just, saying the thing, being true to myself, saying yes when I mean yes, saying no when I mean no, going for the thing that I know is right for me, having the conversation.
Yeah, love it. Yeah. Okay, pop quiz, because it's the school of growth after all.
Okay.
So pop quiz, if you could eat one food only for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Easy. Steak with horseradish sauce. Done.
You're such a vegan. You're a vegan poster child. Okay. Pop quiz. 3 books that have been most positively influential in your life. Any 3. 2, 1, doesn't matter. But up to 3.
Eckhart Tolle. Anything by Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah, you love that.
Absolutely love Eckhart Tolle. Number 2, maybe Fear by Thich Nhat Hanh. Is really, really awesome.
Thank you.
And then there's another one, Top 5 Regrets of the Dying by a chick called Bronnie Ware.
Awesome.
Epic book.
Yeah, you actually gave that to me, so thank you.
No, you're welcome.
Okay, and a person that you personally admire or look up to, like as a role model.
Oh man, there's so many. You know what? At the moment, I've got a bit of a boy crush on Tony Robbins.
Oh, always the man.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of years, I wasn't into his stuff.
Yeah.
And then recently, just having a look at what he does and how he does it and how he's of service in the world, and his world is just like, actually, you're pretty incredible.
You remind me of him, I have to say. Like physically, I mean, you're not giganteum quite to the extreme that he is, but like, you know, your physicality, your appearance, your message.
Yeah, wow.
You're like, well, you're Anthony too, huh?
Yeah, I know, right?
You're my Anthony. Yeah, and I also love, Anthony Robbins.
Yeah,
that's cool. He's worthy of
which is a new one for me though, which is why I say it today. Like, cool. I never
just dropped into the
basically, just
Robbins
recently.
Love.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, and then what are you currently seeking progress on in your life? Like, what is the thing right now that Ant's working on?
The thing that I'm working on at the moment is most certainly balance. With respect to work balance. I've been really challenging a belief in over a period now, but this belief that in order to achieve what I want and the success that I want, it has to be hard. Like, I have to work hard.
Yeah.
And so I've been reframing that, and actually with really positive results so far, that it doesn't necessarily have to be hard. Yes, I still have to turn up and do the things, but flogging myself for umpteen hours a day just because my head tells me to probably isn't going to get me where I want to be. And it's not what I want.
No, and we can, I'm having the same learnings at the moment in dropping into flow and alignment, is that we can have more from doing less.
100%.
And I think maybe it's our Russian heritage that made us think we had to suffer. You had to sacrifice and suffer to achieve.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's benefit to that. We've learned to be hardworking and resilient and things like that too. So the benefit.
I wouldn't change it, but that's what I'm working on.
But that's what you're working on. Love it.
Yeah.
And I know that your beautiful partner helps you with that too.
She does.
Yeah. And you're just as a little share, Ant is expecting his first child in a few months. So congratulations on that too.
Thank you.
That will teach you balance. Because children.
I think that's what's forcing me into it. Really.
Well, also because there is no bigger time waster, and I say this lovingly, than a baby. You will lose hours just in witness to them.
Yeah, wow.
Hours.
Wow.
And so if you think you have no time now, there will just be hours that disappear, but you'll still get it all done. And that in itself is a learning.
Yeah, wow.
All right. And then how can we, and the people watching, like I've obviously, already suggested that they share, comment, tag people just to get the message out. But in the work that you do in Awaken Lifestyles, how can we impact and magnify the message ourselves? How can we be the embodiment of it or help spread it? Or like, what can we do to support your message?
Other than, give us a follow on social or actually come and do some work with us. Like if you wanted to
if you feel
some
called.
inner work, absolutely. Like any area of life that you're stuck in, we can help you through. Definitely get in touch in that respect. otherwise just be true to yourself. Like if there's something that we shared today or that we talked about today that made you have a feeling, like if anything made you have a feeling today, I just recommend everyone get interested in that. Like just observe that and go, what was that about? And then start listening for that inner knowing, that thing that you know to be true for you, that doesn't change, that doesn't, go back and forth between hour to hour. Listening to that, following that, and just having the courage to take that first step.
Breathe and proceed.
Yeah, good
and
one.
When you survive it, you will recode it. That's
Correct.
it. You gotta just breathe through it for it to be survivable. New experience, new belief, and you're on your way. So, Ant, thank you so much.
You're really welcome.
Thank you.
I've
been wanting to do this for ages. Is there anything that we haven't covered or something that you just want to leave as a final message? Like if there's not, that's fine. But
I think we're good.
I think we covered it. I think we did pretty good.
Thank you for listening,
if you found this valuable, well, firstly, I'm just going to say thank you. And for the podcast, we'll just say that's done. Done.
It's an honor.
And for those of us on socials now, guys, if you found something valuable, even just so that we know, can you just pay, I really like the piece on, or my biggest takeaway was, like, what was the takeaway that landed for you? If you watch it in the replays hash, if you've got a question, write it. Ant and I will obviously look and check in and we'll respond. And again, tag people, share the whole video if you found it valuable. That would just mean the world to us, actually. But yeah, I mean, we're both here to be of service. We're both committed to people being their highest expression and their fullest version of themselves and experiencing the greatest bliss and joy that they can.
So if you know anyone that might be motivated by anything that we've shared, give it to them.
Okay. Otherwise, I love you, I love you. And thank you so much for joining us.
Peace, guys. Later.
See you guys.